What if spreadsheets could do more than just store data? What if they could transform the way your business works from top to bottom? That's where Airtable comes in. One of the first challenges you'll find when trying to automate your business is that all your data is stored in static spreadsheets, things like Excel or to a lesser degree Google Sheets. What this does is it makes it harder to extract the data, to handle it and collaborate with other team members. Airtable changes all of that. It gives you all the benefits of the structure, but also makes the data dynamic and automation ready, something that future thinking businesses need to have in place. If you're still using Excel to manage content creation, to track projects, to manage customer and client information, or have any tasks managed between your teams, then after this video, you're going to want to change that. And look, I know what you're thinking. I've been using Excel my whole career. I finally know where everything is, and now I've got to change to something new. Don't worry, that's not the case. All the things that you've learned with Excel really transfer over to Airtable. So we'll be taking that knowledge you've already learned and building on that, and it will allow you to take that knowledge further and do more with what you know. And in this video, I'll go through exactly what that transition looks like. I'll take you through the basics of Airtable, all the fields, all the key features. I'll show you how to convert your Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets into Airtable. We'll cover where to find things, how to create your own dynamic bases, and by the end of this video, you'll be able to make your own and start using Airtable. But more importantly, you'll start to see the way you store data differently. Let's dive in. Right, so first of all, in this video, I'm going to go through the main features and benefits of Airtable, really show you all the specific fields and records and the way that you can manipulate the data. I'll take you through an example spreadsheet that I've made in Excel, show you the difference of what that data what can be done with that data in Excel compared to what it can be done in Airtable, and really just give you the opportunity to make your mind up what you think is going to be better for your business. Because I know a lot of businesses, professionals, this was me until very recently, everything's on Excel or Google Sheets, everything's to keep organized in one place. But when you realize what other options are out there in terms of what you can do with that data, I think it's massively valuable for people to understand. So today I want to show you how you can set up your initial Airtable bases, the differences and what you can do with the data. So let's get straight into it. First of all is where to find it. So Airtable can be on desktop and a web app. So if you go to airtable.com, here it shows you the different plans. So it ranges depending on how the size of your database. I'll refer to it as a database. You'll see shortly in terms of why I say it like that, if that makes sense. But in terms of the size of your database, because you can save attachments onto it, whereas Excel, it's sort of formula related. In this, it is you're storing files. You can store audio clips, you can store pictures, all sorts. So it comes down to the attachments you want to save, the size of the base that you have, if you want to do automations, what different views you want. So depending on where you fit within this spectrum, most people I would just advise some of the free packages you get with things are pretty much useless. This is actually, you can do a lot with the free plan here. So I'd probably just advise start with that. And when you hit a barrier, something you want to do, then upgrade at that point. So when you do sign up to Airtable the first time, this is what it will look like. This is the home page. So there's a few different things to choose from. You can start with AI, start with the templates, or start from scratch. I'll go into the templates briefly, as if you're not very confident starting things from scratch yourself, this might be a good place to start. So if you go into the templates, it's got a few different use cases you might see. So that'll open up something that's already done for you. There's lots of different options here depending on what to use it for. I would say down the left-hand side here, it has some of the best use cases in terms of project management, marketing. I know lots of people like to use them as CRMs, actually full-blown CRMs in terms of all their customer and client data. Have a look through. If any of them feel like it's a good fit for what you want to use, maybe start there. But I would suggest starting off from scratch or importing something from Excel or Google Sheets, because you'll be your bearings then. You'll sort of where things are, and you'll be able to find your bearings that way. So we'll go start from scratch. So when you open it up, this is what it will look like. So you'll get the options here to import work. We'll close that for now. So you can name your base at the top. So let's just say marketing video for now. You can change the color, whichever you like. No, let's not go pink, let's go blue. And to give you an idea, so say for example, if you're on Excel, you would have just rows A to Z and then columns 1 to 1,000 or whatever. Here it works slightly differently. So say for example, if you have a look at the fields here, you've got names, you've got long text, which basically you can type just paragraphs into. You can write full reports and save it in that one cell. You can assign them to different people. You can have different statuses. You can have attachments. I'll go through some of the other main ones. You can have checkboxes, as we said. You can have multiple choice selections, emails that are formatted instantly. You can have formulas. Like I said, with Excel, everything's really formula related. So what I've done is I've made an Excel spreadsheet of a marketing campaign, which will translate really well over to Airtable to show you the differences. So I'll open that up now to give you sort of a comparison. So say, just to give you an outline of what this is. So this is basically a marketing team's marketing campaign list. So it's got all the marketing campaigns, the promotions, what their status is, the start, end dates, all the budget information, all the customer breakdowns, the channels, who's leading them, all staff member involved, where they're at. So it just gives you a real overview. And so many businesses use spreadsheets for exactly like this. So it will have all the information on one master sheet. Different people have to log in and out to view it. One person can't make changes while the other person's in it and things like that. And you might have multiple tabs along the bottom with different bits of information, which you have here for team members and the different content assets. But if you say, for example, when you're clicking on these cells, it's all just general data. If you see at the top in terms of the formula, you do have some dates and some currency, but everything else, if I was to change one cell here, it wouldn't reflect on any of the other parts of the database of the spreadsheet. You can do VLOOKUPs and things like that, but it's a lot more complicated than what I'm about to show you. So you can put these things in place, but on Excel, it's a lot, because it's formula based, it's a lot more complicated. So if we just take that structure for now, for example, and we have a look at the Airtable base that we had. So rather than having the cells, you actually have the format built into the column effectively. So you have attachments, you can drag and drop files there. It could be pictures, links, audio files, videos, anything. So if you can imagine you're a content agency, then you put all your artwork up there or your videos or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of things on there. From inventory, you can do barcodes, you can have ratings. So you start to create a field, you can start rating things. There's a lot more options in terms of what you can do with the data. So what I'll do now is I'll import, rather than starting from scratch, I'll import the spreadsheet that I had already prepared in Excel, and then you can see how that sort of transitions and gets added in. So if we add in from Excel, so remove that one. So as you can see straight away, it's a lot more visually engaging for a start with all the information. You've got the different tables here. So rather than having it separated in tabs on the same worksheet, you will just have completely separate tables. But the main benefits of Airtable is, the thing to understand is with Excel, it's all formula based. So you can create formulas on this, but on Airtable, it's more how you visualize the data and the relationship the data points have with each of the tables. So I'll give you some examples. So say, for example, now, if you're trying to make your own base, and you've just imported your spreadsheet for the first time, this is what you'll see. One thing you just want to go through and double check is, because a lot of the field types at the top, it does read them correctly. So if you look, for example, campaign name, it's got as a text, it's got a single select for all the different campaign types that are available. It's got the dates, but say, for example, here, if you've seen, it hasn't read that that's a date. So just make sure you then might have to go edit field and then change the field type to date and save that. So click yes. So what you'll have to do is, when you're importing your spreadsheet yourself, you'll have to go through and double check all of the fields at the top have corrected themselves. So for example, again here, the budget, it's recognizes a number, but we don't want a number, we want a currency. So if you right click onto there, edit field, you can then go and select currency, choose your preferences, let's say pound. And there you go. So you just go through field by field to do that. It doesn't take very long. And trust me, the hardest part of all of this is just importing the data, getting it set up. Once it's set up, that's where you sorted then. Everything else compounds over time. So rather than going through one by one, I've actually done this already beforehand. But before I go to the example that I've created, the next thing you're going to want to do when you import it is to connect your tables together. So what you might see here, we've got a campaigns tab and we've got a team members tab and a contents tab. So what we'll do is we want to link all of those. So if we go to our table here with marketing campaigns, we can actually select the team members. And what you can do is, if you go into that field, if you go edit field and you go into where you'd normally select what type of record it is, you can actually click link to another record. So if you click on that and then go onto the table you want to link it to, allow it to link multiple records, and then save. And then if you link by name, and then what this means is now that if you go into the team members, all of the marketing campaigns are now linked together and all the team members are linked together. I didn't mean to create that extra column. And you want to do the same then if you go into the team members, you can do the team members. Have you got assets in here? No, so we want to do assets on here as well. Where are we? Yeah, content assets. So if we right click on this, go edit field, link to another record, content assets. So now what you've got is all of the information on this table is connected to these following tables as well. So what that means is, say for example, if we change the secondary channel on this, we remove that, that will then update on all of the other tables. So everything's connected. Whereas to have that across the board on every cell on an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheets would take ages, be really complicated and really prone to errors. Whereas this, it follows on a lot more easily. An important point to take is just now everything's connected. So you can make changes on one thing. There's no more copying and pasting. It's everything's connected. Everything's live. People come in. You don't have to worry about one person changing one thing and not changing another. Everything's in sync, which is obviously really beneficial. One of the key aspects or the key benefits for Airtable is the views. So what I'll do this time is I'll actually go back to the one that I created of this beforehand. So what you'll have down the side here, you can see now, is you've got different views. So as I said to you before, the main benefits are the relationships between the data and the ways you can visualize the data. So this grid view, this is what you'd be familiar to seeing in Excel. However, there's lots of different things we can do with this. So we can group things, sort things into different views. So say for example, we can create a new view of, let's create a new grid view, create new view, and then we want to filter, add condition, campaign name is, let's say, status is completed. So that means you've got all your data in the first grid, and this would just be your completed one. So it splits data down. You can segment it any way you want, but that just gives you another quick way of visualizing the same data. But the real power comes into it with some of the other views that you get. I'll move myself out of the way here, because you've got so many different ways. And the reason I created the spreadsheet in this way is because it highlights a lot of them. So say, for example, you want to do a calendar view. This is another really good use case for it. So if you go to create a calendar and you look here, so we go color, select fields. And so here now you've got all the dates for all of the projects all in a calendar, which I think is a really good, easy way to visualize things and good for organizing. You've got a gallery view, which when you see is another way to visualize the data. A lot of the time, say if you've got images, say if these are campaigns with images, this will look a bit more impressive because you'll actually have the artwork or the videos as the head of the tiles here. Again, the point to make is all of these views is the same data. So if you click on open it, it's got all of the information from the other view, but it's just another way of visualizing it. So what's again another important to make is if you change something here, then you're changing the table. So if you go back to the grid, that would have changed depending, and it would have carried across to the other table. So it's an important point to note. Going into some of the other common views, Kanban view, this is good for task related things. So say for example, we go to status, you can then have, for example, so you're planning a campaign, you can say, all right, this one's completed, that one, we've actually done that, move that's completed. Any member of your team can get an instant idea of where your projects are at just by looking at this. It's so much easier than having even the grid view. You can get a visual idea of exactly where you're at. People who are interested in project management, the Gantt view might be something that's interesting for you. I know Gantt charts are quite difficult to create, so this is quite a good feature. If you go with start and end date, we'll go to, I'll go back to one I created as it's a bit more polished for this part. So yeah, say for example, you've got a Gantt chart, that will then show you, that will link all the dates from all of the campaigns in the grid view to show you exactly, you can visualize it in that aspect, which I know is really important for a lot of project managers. Going on to some of the other things, you might have noticed these tabs at the top here, automations and interfaces. So automations I'll come on into a moment, but interfaces, this is another way of being able to visualize your data. So basically what you can do is you can, if we go to make another one for ourselves, let's say add an interface, you can basically choose which sorts of views and which sort of data you want to present onto like a canvas. So you can go in, you can choose, let's say, let's create a dashboard. So instantly that's just chosen from the marketing campaigns on that table. It's made a quick visualization of that data there. So You can do that for as many different areas of your database as possible and collate them all into one canvas with one easy to view dashboard show. Whereas I've done this beforehand. If you go back to the one that I made before, there we go. So like you say, if we go to the one that I said before, if we have a look at this, so you've got here, it's got all of the information about from the marketing campaigns table, which I think you'll agree how visually easy to understand that is. It breaks it down in all different formats, all different segments, and different, like I say, you've got scatter graphs here, pie charts, every possible visual you could want, you can create. This is just a random assortment that is created for me with the AI assistant. So again, I think that's a really good feature for it in terms of project reporting or dashboards to different team members. That's really good. If we go back to this. So to create one of those, the best place to start with might be the AI assistant. If you click on the top right here, myself out the way now, that's one of the first prompts is to create that dashboard. But anytime you're getting stuck, the AI assistants on some of these tools aren't very helpful. Copilot can be really hit and miss, for example, with Microsoft, but this is really helpful, very intuitive. So I would suggest if you do get stuck, that would be the best place to start, especially when it comes to making dashboards and on the automations, they're a bit more complicated. But moving on to the automations, one of the reasons that I use Airtable myself and why I think it's a big advancement on Excel is the ability to incorporate in automations. With Excel, I think you would agree, if we have a look at all the ways in which we've been able to view this data, connect the data with the interfaces, all these things considered, if you were to go back then to the original example of this spreadsheet, it just looks like you've gone back to Windows 98. Honestly, it's once you make the change, I don't think you'll go back. Let's put it that way. But as you see here, nothing's connected, everything's static, visually appealing. If someone logs into this, you're thinking, what am I looking at straight away? And nothing's immediately obvious. You can't track when things are changed very easily. So I think that would be one of the main reasons to make the change. But another key reason is in terms of automation. So on my business, that's something I do. So every bit of data I have is saved in Airtable. For a few reasons. First of all, is it makes the inputting and extracting of the information really easy. It integrates with a lot of the no-code platform tools like Make.com and NA10 easily. So getting the information out and putting it back in, effectively what I'm trying to say, is a lot easier. But at the same time, it does also have native integrations. So if we look at the automations here, when I say native, I mean built in Airtable itself. So say when a record matches a certain condition, we then do the following action. So that can be send an email, update a record, run a script, and it integrates with all of these. So you've got Slack, Microsoft Teams, Google Sheets, Outlook, all these sorts of things. So it gives you a really good way to gain an understanding of how automations work without having to pay for any third-party tools. So say, for example, we go back to your data, what you might have a trigger might be is as soon as that hits completed, we email the attachments in this row off to the marketing manager, something like that. So it just means when you come in, you click a button, that's done. You don't even have to think about it. And obviously outside of Airtable, you can create much more advanced AI automations, bringing in LLMs and things like that. But even being able to use these quick automations inside Airtable is still really useful. So another good feature to have a look at as well would be the form view. So this is slightly different. This isn't really about visualizing the data that you've already got. It's about adding data to the database. So say, for example, if you click on create a form here, there's a lot of aesthetic changes you can make in terms of adding images and things like that I won't go into right now. But the main concept is it will create a editable form with all of the sections from your database, from your table. So one, this is useful is say when you're collecting customer information, client information, you're doing projects, you're going away from your computer, laptop or whatever, and you just create a direct form where customers will input their information, and that was rather than have to copy and paste it yourself, it will just simply, every time someone completes a form, a new row will be completed and everything will be formatted exactly as it should be. So that's quite a good time saving operational perspective. And the last one would be extensions on the right here. So if you see here, different extensions of things that you can do within your table and your database. You might recognize some of them. So you've got Typeform, you can integrate directly with online form makers. You can have barcode scanning for inventories. I'll have a look through, I'll go through it quickly here so you can see
but there's a lot of one-click solutions that, rather than things that you wouldn't be able to do elsewhere on Google Sheets or on Excel. But that would be the main key features I would have a look at. And I think if you can see all these different views, take into account what you can do with the information, understand that it is the relationship between the information as opposed to the formulas. Thanks for today, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
So there you have it. Hopefully now you've got an understanding of where to find Airtable, the key features. You can now go away and try and set up your own bases, maybe converting your spreadsheets to be able to get dynamic data and better insights. I'm thinking of doing a follow-up to this video, going into some of the more advanced features, things like the automations, the extensions that I only touched on briefly here. Let me know in the comments if you'd find that useful and that's something I can build on for next time. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.